victims to show you on that. I'm just going to do these very quickly. Okay. He profiles the story in a second picture. I'll show that. A Pakistani woman who was viciously burned by her husband with acid because she dared to divorce him. This is what we're talking about. This is Ms. Azhar. Okay. Thousands of women have suffered similar attacks throughout Asia. No prosecutions, Senator. Christoph tells us the story of a Vietnamese girl named Sina Van, who was kidnapped at age 13. She was sold into sex slavery in Cambodia. When she refused to see customers, she was tortured brutally with electric shocks and locked in a coffin full of insects. And Christoph illustrates an act of horrific brutality in a piece called "If This Isn't Slavery, What Is?", in which a young Cambodian girl had her eye gouged out by her brothel owner after taking time off to recover from a forced abortion. This is a picture of that.
We're watching, of course, graphic questioning by Senator Boxer of California about the, well, horrible treatment of women in Pakistan as she's demonstrating here. Hillary Clinton. Michelle, it's such a multi-layered event here today. Hillary Clinton being vetted as a potential future Secretary of State, but also as a woman.
Yes.
About questions of dealing with, as we talked about earlier, microfinance, about Darfur, about all these issues, and here again, talking about the treatment of women again. It's a lot of layers here. She is, you point out that she's not just another woman Secretary of State, she'll be the third.
She'll be the third.
She's an elected official from New York, very pro-Israeli, known to be. Just lost a narrow race for the Democratic nomination for the presidency. She's a politician, woman, New Yorker, pro-Israeli, and she's now Obama's top world diplomat.
Yes, yes, with a lot of power and force going behind her going into this office. I think the discussions that we're seeing today, particularly about women in Pakistan and Afghanistan and other places, shows a turning of the tide just of left of center feminism here in this country, and also our policy, our foreign policy, and how we look at women's rights. I think it's very important because it shows that Hillary Clinton is going to take up what we've been seeing when people say, for example, I've heard Condoleezza Rice say half a democracy is not a democracy. And I think what we will see with this State Department is something that Condi Rice tried to build on at the State Department. I think Hillary Clinton will take it to the next level, where you will see just as much discussions as we have about nuclear proliferation, weapons of mass destruction. You will also see a lot of commentary and a lot of diplomacy on women's rights, particularly in Islamic countries where a lot of times women have no rights at all. Girls are married off at very young ages and used as a tool of war.
Here's the senator.
Keeps women, as I said in my testimony, unhealthy, unfed, uneducated, and this is something that results all too often in violence against these young women, both within their families and from the outside. This is not culture. This is not custom. This is criminal, and it will be my hope to persuade more governments, as I have attempted to do since I spoke at Beijing on these issues, 13 and some years ago, that we cannot have a free, prosperous, peaceful, progressive world if women are treated in such a discriminatory and violent way. I have also read closely Nick Kristoff's articles over the last many months, but in particular the last weeks, on the young women that he has both rescued from prostitution and met, who have been enslaved and abused, tortured in every way, physically, emotionally, morally. And I take very seriously the function of the State Department to lead our government through the Office on Human Trafficking to do all that we can to end this modern form of slavery. We have sex slavery, we have wage slavery, and it is primarily a slavery of girls and women. So I look also forward, Senator, to reviewing your legislation and working with you as a continuing partnership on behalf of these issues we care so much about. And finally, the work that the women of the Senate did in connection with First Lady Laura Bush on behalf of the women of Afghanistan has been extremely important. That program was started in the State Department. It was midwifed by a group that I helped to start back in the Clinton administration called Vital Voices. Mrs. Bush has been outspoken on behalf of the plight of Afghan women, on behalf of Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma and other women facing oppression around the world. And I'm very pleased that that project will be spun off to Georgetown, where it will continue under Mrs. Bush's sponsorship. So we're going to have a very active women's office, a very active office on trafficking. We're going to be speaking out consistently and strongly against discrimination and oppression of women and slavery in particular, because I think that is in keeping not only with American values, as we all recognize, but American national security interests as well.
Well, I couldn't have asked for a better answer.
Well, there you see a world headline. Around the world, that story is going to go. We just heard the passion of the Secretary-designate, Senator Clinton, talking about the treatment of women in the world as not being cultural, not being customary, not custom, but criminal. She talked about sex and wage slavery. Tough, passionate statement by the future Secretary of State. The world's going to hear that statement in a matter of seconds. We'll be right back. Senator Clinton is making news on the world stage right